Greetings, brothers and sisters. Quite a lot of things to get to today. Let's start here with Willow, a Taylor Swift song and performance at Glendale, Arizona, I believe. I don't know. This is The Forest. So apparently one of my viewers sent me this. The Taylor Swift is performing some sort of witchcraft ritual. It's not, original. This has been done by Katy Perry and a number of other artists. Artists in air quotes. And its crowd's going nuts. There they go. So here's the fire. They're throwing these up. You see here, they got these globes that look like fire. And Taylor Swift's here on her knees singing. And it's pretty creepy. I guess it goes on from there. There's more stuff. This is all I got, but this is all we need. So this is from Andrea Mitchell Reports. This is Andrea Mitchell.
Now, the debt ceiling bill that the president is hoping to negotiate with Speaker McCarthy, not his only challenge in avoiding a fiscal disaster. Could the price of a deal with...
Okay, so when you look at Andrea Mitchell here, you wonder, how did she make it onto TV? Her husband is Alan Greenspan, the former chief of the Federal Reserve. I mean, he was there forever. During the Clinton years, Bush years, he was in charge of the Federal Reserve corrupt bank and the debt-based economy, really worldwide debt-based economy. I mean, the Fed is the number one position. His name is Alan Greenspan. Her name is Andrea Mitchell. And so why they don't have the same last name, there they are with Morgan Freeman. And, they're connected. They're part of the club. She's a, whatever. But she should be on television based in her performance. I mean, her eyes are different sizes. She's old. But it's her voice that really sucks. If you have at least the ability to speak well, your appearance isn't as important, right? And so she doesn't have that. Like, she might have been, I don't know, a quality writer, a quality journalist. Maybe it's because she's connected. Who knows why she has a show? But she shouldn't have one. She's depressing to listen to, right?
Avoiding a fiscal disaster. Could the price of a deal with Republicans be too steep for progressives on Capitol Hill, potentially opening a rift with the White House heading into an election year? And joining me now is Jen Psaki, host of MSNBC's Inside with Jen Psaki.
Now, Jen Psaki, I've been covering. This is why this video got recommended to me. And she shouldn't have a show. She's not good at it. But at least she's relevant. Like, she's, just a part of the Biden administration. She's an insider. She has relationships with these people. She has inside information. Again, I'm talking about just for people who would watch MSNBC, right? For us, yeah, we don't, that sucks. But for them, that's important. And she's younger, right? She's probably in her 30s or 40s. And so she sucks at her job. Like, she's not good at it. But Andrea Mitchell is even worse. And she's been, having a show now for 3 or 4 years, or maybe even longer. I don't know how long she's been on the air.
On Sunday, and a former Biden White House press secretary, which is all of your insides. I mean, the fact that you were the State Department spokeswoman, too. I mean, you've done it all.
I've been in a lot of rooms.
You've done it all, except be able to be a quality anchor on a TV show.
Andrea, for whatever that's worth, yes.
You learned so much along the way. So President Biden now at a summit, you've been to these G7s, projecting strength, against Russia, in favor of Ukraine.
Yeah.
We heard the F-16 thing is being
just so much strength.
Cleared up, but it will take at least 4 months to train these pilots. And then China sitting out there holding their own summit.
Yeah.
And back home, he's got these negotiations, and everything depends on this. Economic strength of the U.S., the recession.
Everything. It's like, if you don't give him more money so that he can loot it, right? So it's just everything will go to crap.
And,
what's Hunter going to do if there's no more money to loot?
Members, I interviewed Bob Good, House member, yesterday, and his strong belief is that default is not such a big deal.
I mean, they are clearly not people who have attended these summits, as you said. And Susan Glasser
the summits, it is a big deal.
Wrote a really great piece about this today. What's important for people to understand is that when the president of the United States is at a summit, or even when he's not, all of these world leaders and their teams are watching what's happening in the United States. Is democracy going to last?
Look at them. Like,
are they going to default? All of that makes the United States look weak on the world stage.
You know, if they're watching him, is the president going to poop himself, right? These questions, like what's going to happen to the United States? If they are watching the United States, and we saw how he behaved when he went to the G8 or whatever it was in London, and he was, talking over people and barking and, just acting the fool. I mean, he's senile, and they know it, right? I mean, we can see it. They can see it. They're not stupid, the other governments, the other world leaders, that this guy, and as much as they want to say Trump was an embarrassment, this guy is a career politician who was always, a bumbling fool and a walking gaffe and just all these depraved behaviors, a snoozler, snuggler, a groper, a sniffer, and all the things he did publicly. And now he's just senile, and he's out there doddering around with his crypt keeper mullet. I mean, just look at this blank look. Like he's nobody's home here, right? And so they all know that, right? But they know that he's being handled. He's not even really a leader. Like he's not, there's a team of people. The whole thing about Trump was he wasn't acting presidential. He wasn't playing the part. And Jojo Magoo is trying to play the part. He sucks at it. But it's just, it's just not there, right? There's nobody home.
And if you're China, you're rooting for a default, right, for them. So for the president, this is about he's there to project strength, the United States.
Okay, so that was the big headline here. Jen Psaki, China is probably rooting for the United States to default. But this is their lineup, right? This is a daytime show. Jen Psaki's got a nighttime show. And they're just unwatchable. I mean, yeah, it's mockable, but not watchable, right? Remedial analysis and
States is back at the table, but these negotiations, this being tricky and unresolved at home, is not great. And that's important for people, Republicans, Democrats, to really understand.
And we've been so focused on the House all along and House progressives, keeping Democrats together. But you have 11 senators signing legislation, signing a letter, rather, to the...
Okay, so, I mean, this is MSNBC here to say at the end of it, right? Let's go to the very end here.
Does he think he might run again himself?
I did ask him that question, and I will tell you he certainly left the door open to something in the future.
Can't wait to see this interview and all the rest of your show. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Andrea, so much.
This is who we are. That's so great. All right, so we haven't gone to CNN in a while. This is this guy, Samir Kanish, and here he is talking about Arnold here.
Tonight, a special treat. Former California governor and action star Arnold Schwarzenegger sat
It's a treat.
down with CNN's Dana Bash.
That's a special treat. Like, trick or treat, what do you got? You got candy bars, you got gum, you have some other form of candy. No, you can watch a CNN interview with Dana Bash and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, what a treat.
To talk about how he's combating rising anti-Semitism and hate crimes in America. Dana, I'm envious. What a privilege you just had. I've been
What a privilege. You got Arnold.
This company before, and he is really interesting.
Yeah, that's his code word for moronic or, suffering the effects of years of using steroids.
No question about it, and especially on this topic. He invited me here. In particular.
Here he is.
Why?
Let's move forward.
Well, it's not this particular. It's like anything that I see that really bothers me, I get involved with it. If it is
If it bothers me, I get involved. Let's move forward.
long. And love is more powerful than hate.
It is. It's just more powerful. Love is totally more powerful than hate.
In this video that you did last month,
I want to talk to you today about the rising hate and anti-Semitism we've seen all over the world.
which
I
was
remember that video. He was great in that video.
Why was it that way? What powers do people have that are really upset and angry at government?
Well, part of it.
See, the thing is, with Arnold, how many times was his movies about revenge? Or, him being hateful to people, right? And his, one-liner, I mean, all the way from the Terminator to the Running Man to all these violent action movies where he, and oftentimes something happened to him or his family and he wanted revenge or whatever it was. Revenge was a big part of his whole, cinema career. And then he became governor and he banged his maid in his wife's bed, in his the marital bed, impregnated her. Right? There was a lot of love. See, love is more powerful than hate. It worked out well because his wife divorced him, and then he ended up here. Let's see.
Person that can lead this country in a Republican way.
You think there's no way he would win again?
No.
What if he did?
What is if it is a hypothetical question? But I can guarantee you that he's going to...
What is this with your hypothetical question? What if he did? Well, you just said he wouldn't, right? Your hypothetical response.
Go maybe get the Republican nomination. Then when it comes down to the actual election, there's too many people now that have seen what he did as president that I think when it comes to the majority on election day, I think they will see the difference between one or the other. And believe me...
One or the other. Who's the other? Is the other Jojo Magoo? That's the problem. You guys won't address the senile person in the room. YouTube is about to make a big change. Viewers are going to absolutely despise, but advertisers are going to love it. The last thing that YouTube viewers want is more unskippable advertisements, but that's exactly what viewers are going to see going forward. And so they're going to put more unskippable ads. Right now, YouTube is hurting, at least us. Either they've cut more money out of the money they're giving to creators, or they're just not getting as much money. And so they're going with unskippable ads. But it was inevitable because YouTube has, I don't think, ever made money. They might have had a few years, I'm not sure, but for the most part, they haven't. And, it's a widely used platform and, but it's at some point going to have to be financially solvable. It has to be in the black and not the red. So before I move on to some other news-related things, I watched the Nuggets and the Lakers game last night. And it was clearly being rigged in behalf of the Lakers, but they lost anyway, which I found interesting. And I'll explain more. Here is Nikola Jokic, who is the best player for the Nuggets, and he looks like this big, fat, uncoordinated European white guy, and who's got like incredible basketball skills and hits really difficult shots and has ball handling and passing skills, and but he had a horrible game, and he was in foul trouble because of the way the refs were reffing the game, and even with that, and more of their players were in foul trouble, that it was just being reffed poorly, and even with that, the Nuggets won. So before I get into my explanation of this, because I find it interesting for so many different reasons, but there were two things that happened unrelated to the game. Adam Silver, the Poindexter-looking MNFer, who's the commissioner of the NBA, was sitting next to Bob Iger, who is the president of Disney, which is ABC and ESPN, and so as one of the commenters, Mark Jackson referred to him as our boss, right? So the guy paying. There's two companies that have NBA games, TNT, the Ted Turner Network, and ABC, ESPN. And so they pay big money to broadcast these games. And because of that, they want as many playoff games as possible. They enter into the summer season where they're running reruns, right? And there's just certainly on ESPN the content is pretty limited. There's Major League Baseball, which isn't a big draw, and things like this, which I don't even know if ESPN covers. I think Fox covers that. So it's beneficial that the games are competitive. They're close games. They keep you watching, that you don't turn them off because of the point differential. But you see this year there was a lot of comeback games where teams were down 20 or more points and they came back to win. And so that's like a new thing in the NBA, which I assume is to some extent controlled because it keeps you engaged, and watching a 20-point comeback is, it's a good thing, right? Something that its viewers would like to see. The other thing is that, they want to extend the series. So if it's a 7-game series, they want it to go 6-7 games as opposed to 4 games in some lopsided, situation where no one's going to tune into game 4 because in the history of basketball, no one's ever come back from an 0-3 deficit. It recently happened in baseball, but once there's a team wins 3 games, the chances of the other team winning 4 games in a row, is slim to nil, right? The other thing was Jeff Van Gundy, the other announcer, said that he was saying, what people ask him why he and other announcers criticized the officiating, and he said, well, there's 3 entities on the court. There's the 2 teams and there's the officials, and the officials definitely influence the outcome of a game. So I've seen this over the years, and there's a lot of dopes out there that think everything's scripted and it's completely controlled, and that's not how it works. They have to play a game. There has to be some sort of competitive game. But they can change the outcomes of the game, influence the outcomes of a series, and, all these things can happen because they control the officials. And it isn't the individual refs themselves. There's one guy who got caught. He was, working with the mob, and he was rigging basketball games. But for the most part, the officials are controlled by the commissioner and the owners of the basketball league, and they can call the games any way they want. Their handlers want them to call the game. And I've said this before, and you can see it being manipulated. There were two big games when I was growing up: the Lakers against the Trailblazers in Game 7, and the Lakers against the Sacramento Kings in Game 7. And the foul disparity was both of the games, the other team was leading by like 15 or more points, right? They were leading by a substantial amount of points going into the fourth quarter. But the Lakers somehow were given all these foul calls, even though they're the team that's more desperate. And what they do is they let one team play physical and foul, and the other team, when they play physical, they call fouls, right? And so you really can't see it, when you're watching on TV, but you can tell by the opposing team's facial expressions and the body language that they know they're being effed. They knew the rig is on, right? And it appeared that way last night. The Denver Nuggets, their star player was in foul trouble. He had to sit down. He was having a bad game. And they were still leading the game, but you could see by the body language they knew that they were being screwed by the officials. It was very clear. And I was like, why am I even watching this? I know how this ends. But somehow the Nuggets were such a superior team. And I'm not a fan. I wanted them to beat the Lakers, but I'm not a fan. They won the game anyway. I mean, it was almost embarrassing that the Lakers were, supposed to win this game. They have all these famous people in the crowd and LeBron James, but they were so overmatched, even with the officiating being so one-sided. The Nuggets end up winning, and it's something where I was looking at this like the controllers are having problems controlling things more and more. What I call the controllers, and this is on smaller levels, on bigger levels. They're losing control of their AI bot technology. They're losing control of the narratives. They're losing control of the information on the internet and they've just lost control, right? And you can see it more and more, and I thought this was a good indicator. Okay, so let's move on to the other stuff here. Okay, so I had this up for a couple of days. MSNBC's Mahdi Hassan hits Ron DeSantis with absolutely biblical fact check. Let's see the video here.
Eamon, good evening. Before I go...
It's got a weird British accent. This is the handoff. So the two great journalists, no one could ever beat them. They used to have this wonderful thing called the douche-off between Don Lyman's and Chris Cuomo's. They'd have these unbelievably dorky handoffs. But this guy's going to drop something biblical on Ron DeSantis.
Daniel Penny, who put Jordan Neely in a fatal chokehold on the New York City subway, was charged on Friday with second-degree manslaughter. And the response, Eamon, from conservatives has been to treat him as both a victim and a hero. In fact, Governor Ron DeSantis tweeted out a link to a crowdfunding site for Penny's defense, saying, "We stand with good Samaritans like Daniel Penny." Now, Eamon, I'm a Muslim, but I've read my Bible.
He's read his Bible. He's read his Bible.
I've read the Gospel of Luke, the parable of the Good Samaritan, who helps the injured traveler after the priest and another man failed to do so. I don't remember the Good Samaritan choking the traveler to
Boom, he just got biblical on his ass.
death.
I mean, I think it's safe to say we should stop pretending that Republicans are the party of God. I mean, they are not a party that demonstrates compassion in the spirit of Christianity, whether it is on immigration or helping.
They're not the party of God. There's no party of God, right?
The homeless. I mean, instead, they are a party that now openly champions vigilantism. This is the party that embraced Kyle Rittenhouse and Daniel Perry, not
So that was his going biblical.
to be confused with Daniel Penny. Daniel Perry is the racist army sergeant who was convicted and sentenced to 25 years in prison for killing a protester at a Black Lives Matter rally. What do Republicans do? They don't condemn the racist for the murder. Greg Abbott, the governor, wants to pardon him. I mean, this is
Look at him shake his head. Unbelievable.
now the party that stood behind
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
George Zimmerman, who killed Trayvon Martin, a boy walking with Skittles.
He was walking with Skittles. I mean, you know, he's walking with some Skittles.
So they're not about to change their tune, Mahdi, and side with justice for the homeless man killed on a subway. They are rallying to Daniel Penny's defense, which has now raised more than $1 million since he was charged with that manslaughter. And
Wow. So much money. And did they throw in some Skittles?
by the way,
No.
that money is being raised on a Christian crowdfunding site that has become the go-to site for far right-wing causes in America, like the Legal Defense Funds for...
Whoa. That's just, wow. Whoa. All right. So there's that. Alec and Hilaria hit first red carpet since Rust charges dropped. Kaboom. Look at them go. Look at them up there. Look, is Diana Sawyer there? Say cucumber. Say cucumber. She's still rocking that foreign accent. Diane Sawyer's like, really? It's Murphy Brown. So Pen America, the freedom to write. Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed wants fatal movie case dismissed. Gun that killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins receiving new forensic testing. And I mean, this picture pretty much doomed her. Like, is there going to be a fall guy? It's this dude right here. We'll see. They completed filming in Montana. They had to leave New Mexico. Alec berates shocked female server at gala. So when they attended this Pen America, it seemed that Alec, it said here, a spy tells page 6 exclusively, they have spies there, that actor allegedly berated a female server, leaving her looking shocked. The spy claims that the drama began to unfold when Baldwin, 65, stood up to chat with someone a couple of minutes before the line of servers come all at once to deliver the meals. One female server, who was probably in her late 20s or early 30s, was stuck behind the actor because he was standing and talking, and then when she could pass, she started putting plates on the table, the insider said. And so I guess he didn't like that she did that with him standing there, and he was scolding her. And he said, the server said, "I don't know why he yelled at me." So, kaboom, Alec Baldwin, well, look, I mean, he didn't shoot you, right? I don't know what you're whining about. GOP must move off extreme positions on debt limit, I'm sorry. Because that's what's going to happen. It's their fault that this guy wants to loot. Let this guy loot as much as he can. His handlers and his people. NAACP advises against visiting Florida over hostile Ron DeSantis policies. Government slams move as a stunt. The NAACP issued a travel advisory discouraging tourists from visiting Florida to protest government Ron DeSantis policies, which the civil rights group claim are hostile to black Americans, just day before he's expected to announce his candidacy for president. Kaboom! So that's happening. Trump calls The View co-host, ex-staffer Alyssa Farah Griffin a sleazebag loser. Backbencher in the Trump administration, Alyssa Farah, like so many other sleazebags, had only glowing reviews of the Trump administration until she left. A loser then and a loser now. More to follow. Kaboom.
President, if you remember that.
The first time that I met the president, I was working for the vice president, Mike Pence. I was so nervous. He came into a Roosevelt room meeting.
I thought he might try to grab me by the you-know-what,
that the vice president was leading, and he turned to me and said, "Hi, Smiley." I guarantee he does not remember that to this day, but I was smiling so wide because I was just excited to see him. But now I've gotten to spend quite a bit of time with him. I remember this every day as I walk on a campus, just to stop, say a quick prayer of thank you and gratitude that I get to be there and that I get to serve this particular president.
She had glowing reviews.
He's a remarkable man. The more time you spend with him behind closed doors, the more you understand what makes him such a strong leader for our nation.
Exactly. That's how she felt about Trump back then. Well, I'm in the editing process, and I shouldn't have to say this, but I will because people will, especially Trumpers. Of course, she said this kind of thing when she worked for Trump. Everyone knows who's had a job that if you want to keep your job, you can't tell the truth about how you feel about your boss and the job, right? I mean, anybody who's had a sucky job knows that when you're asked about your sucky job and it's a public question or it's going to go out to the public, you have to lie and pretend you like your sucky job. And then when you quit your sucky job, you tell the truth. I mean, he's making it sound like she was telling her truth then and she loved her job. And then, she got a job on The View and she changed her story, which, maybe there's that, but it's more likely that she was just lying both times. But now she's on The View and she's changed her tune and her hair. She's still got those big smiles, though. Those chompers there. Beyonce and JayZ celebrate $200 million mansion purchase with luxe dinner in London. So they've bought a $2 million mansion in London because God knows why. Why would they want to be there? But that's what they're doing. And this is the old JoJo Dark Brandon meme that they put on Huffington Post. I still have it up there. It's in between my two, the stuff I cover on my other channel, my Hollywood Celebrity Dropping Like Fly stuff, and this stuff. And I have this one thing in between so I know which is which. It's a big part of my organizational process. The Dark Brandon meme. It's I'm just showing you the picture, but it's it's active. It's a GAF. It's there's some animation. But anyways, I just want to add one thing to what I was saying before about the rigged basketball games. It's really about the state of the truth community, because there's just a lot of dopes in the truth community. I mean, I can see it in the comments, and just, people convincing themselves of things that just aren't realistic, or they're not factual. I mean, they might be true, but they're not a slam dunk, or, there's so much disinformation out there. But people have lost their ability for, a sense of, just balance, and, the ability to realize you're never going to know something factually, because it's just too much lies out there. You're never going to get it. And when people first come into the truth community, you're like a newborn baby. The idea of waking up is there, because that's what's happening. You're going from a state of believing in a system, or believing things that weren't true, and you've been indoctrinated to a system, to where you realize that there's some other level. I mean, most people are somewhat cynical and have a negative association with the media and politics and things like that, but they don't go as far as stuff in the truth community. And then you realize, wow, there's all kinds of negative things going on, and you never really put it together the way you have now. But you're like a newborn baby, because your whole reality has changed. It takes you a while to get some kind of footing, and you go through a phase where you just believe everything that's out there as an explanation. You find your little group, your little niche, people in QBs, or this group or that group. And you end up doing the same thing you did before. You're allowing other people to tell you what your reality is, and you're not doing any real research. You're just watching other people's explanation and, disinformation, or whatever it might be. And so that's the majority of people in the truth community. And you just blurt out things like and, things that aren't knowable, like in terms of you can't prove them. And you just blurt them out, and, there's a lot of emotion. And like I covered this yesterday, some person was like, have you ever heard of the idea that it's all the government's fault? If we remove the government, everything will be fine. Yeah, I've heard of that idea, and the idea is stupid. The people that are pushing that are either shills, or they're, opportunists, and they just are stupid themselves, right? Because it's beyond just, one group of people who I call the controllers wrecking everything. And if you don't see that, well, then, there's no real help for you, right? You can see it all throughout humanity. And then you have to take personal responsibility to contributing to this demonic system. And very few people do that, and very few people want to hear that. Most people just want to blame one group or another, and don't want to change, or, change the way that they see things, change their insides, or change their behaviors, or deal with the inevitable collapse of the system. And that's why there's a small fringe group of people who watch my videos, because I'm not pandering to the pre-existing truth templates, these narratives that are out there that are just completely faulty, right? Like, they might be true. Some of them, there might be truth in them, but it's nothing we can prove. And, we don't know these people. We're just, reading things or watching videos about them, and we don't know, if it's being manipulated in some way or another, or we're being manipulated, and it's where it's coming from, who's the source material. There's no real journalism here, right? And so, it's silly to just take these things at face value. Everything in the show is a lie. Everything in the earth is a lie. And there's one truth, which is divinity. If you can connect to God on a deep level, then God can show you what you need to know, and you don't have to worry about the rest, especially when the system's going to take care of itself. We don't have to do anything to change the system. But that's just missing in the truth community. It's sad, because the truth community is just another part of the problem, right? And, that's kind of a bummer for most people. For me, I've accepted it because I've known this for a while. But that means that there's nothing out there that can turn things to something better, right? The system's going to implode, because it should implode, and there's no saving it. And then we have to deal with whatever's left over. Anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paravano, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.